We were just kidding, sir. It was supposed to be a joke.
The sound that woke Malcolm Reed wasn't laughter, it was the soft, electric hum of clippers, close enough that he felt it in his bones before he heard it with his ears. He opened one eye. Fluorescent cabin lights. A reflection in the dark airplane window. A hand hovering just inches from his head. And a thin, cruel line shaved clean across his temple. For half a breath, Malcolm didn't move. Jet lag blurred the edges of the moment. Then he felt it, the cool air on bare skin where hair had been just seconds earlier. "What?" he said calmly, so calmly it surprised everyone, including himself, "are you doing?" The hand jerked back. Clippers dropped. Laughter, panicked, sharp, unfinished, spilled from somewhere behind him. "It was just a joke, sir." Malcolm sat up slowly. 35,000 feet in the air, buckled into a business-class seat he'd paid for himself, wearing a hoodie with frayed cuffs because comfort mattered more than appearances at 2 in the morning. He touched his head. The damage was unmistakable, uneven, deliberate, a joke. The flight attendant, young, nervous, too quick to grin, held up his palms like this was a misunderstanding between friends. "You were out cold," the attendant said. "We thought." "You thought what?" Malcolm asked. Silence stretched. The kind that tells the truth all by itself. Malcolm looked around. A few passengers stared. A woman 2 rows back had her phone angled low, already recording. Someone else looked away, embarrassed on behalf of everyone. Malcolm took a long breath. He felt anger rise, hot and familiar, the kind he'd learned to swallow years ago, back when swallowing it was the price of survival. "It's fine," he said, and watched the relief bloom too quickly on the attendant's face. "Please get your supervisor." The supervisor arrived, flustered, whispering apologies that felt rehearsed. The attendant was guided away, still insisting it was harmless, that no offense was meant. "No offense was taken," Malcolm said quietly. The supervisor nodded too fast. "We'll take care of you when we land, sir." Malcolm leaned back and closed his eyes again, though sleep never returned. He thought about his grandmother's kitchen in Detroit. About Saturday mornings where she'd line him up on a stool and say, "Your hair is your crown, baby. Never let anyone tell you different." He thought about how tired he was, not just jet lag tired, but the deep kind that settles in when you've spent a lifetime proving you belong in rooms that weren't built with you in mind. And he thought about the meeting waiting for him in Chicago at 9 a.m. The one that would change everything. By the time the plane touched down, the story was already spreading. Hashtags. Blurry screenshots. Opinions fired off from strangers who didn't know his name but knew his face. Malcolm didn't check his phone. At the gate, airline executives waited like a badly timed funeral procession. Suits. Tight smiles. The CEO himself, red-faced and sweating through his collar. "We are deeply sorry," the man began. Malcolm nodded. "I'm sure." Private lounge. Complimentary vouchers. Offers stacked on top of offers. Then Malcolm's assistant, June, slipped into the room, eyes wide. "Mal," she said softly, holding out her tablet. "You need to see this." Breaking news banners crawled across the screen. Major airline operations suspended amid federal investigation. Malcolm blinked. The airline's CEO stared. That can't be right." It was. The joke hadn't been the first incident. Or the worst. Just the first one caught cleanly on camera, undeniable, impossible to excuse away. Regulators moved fast when the evidence lined up neatly for once. Flights grounded. Stock halted. Executives escorted out of glass buildings by security. The airline shut down by noon. And still, Malcolm said nothing. The meeting in Chicago wasn't about the airline. It was about a struggling regional hospital network on the verge of collapse. Rural clinics closing. ERs overwhelmed. Patients driving hours for basic care. Malcolm had built his company from a 2-desk startup into a healthcare logistics empire not by chasing headlines, but by fixing quiet problems that most people didn't want to touch. This deal would keep emergency rooms open across 3 states. The board members watched him closely as he entered the conference room, eyes flicking briefly to his hair before snapping back to his face. Malcolm didn't address it. He laid out his proposal with steady hands. Clear numbers. No theatrics. When it was over, the board sat in stunned silence. One woman cleared her throat. "Why did this?" she asked. "It's generous." Malcolm smiled. It's necessary. By lunchtime, the deal was done. Lives quietly saved. No press conference required. That evening, Malcolm stopped by a small barber shop on the south side, the kind with cracked vinyl chairs and old soul music humming from a speaker in the corner. The barber, an older man with careful hands, studied Malcolm's head without comment. "Fixable," he said finally. As the clippers worked, Malcolm watched his reflection change, clean lines replacing chaos. A kid waiting for his turn stared openly. "Cool cut," the kid said. Malcolm grinned. "Thanks. Took a while to get right." When he stood to leave, Malcolm paid for the kid's haircut too. No announcement. No explanation. Just a nod. Over the next week, Malcolm's inbox filled with messages. Support. Rage. Requests for interviews he declined. One email stood out. It was from the flight attendant. Short. Unpolished. Real. "I didn't think about what it meant. I didn't think about you. I'm sorry." Malcolm stared at the screen for a long time. Then he typed back, "I hope you learned something useful from this. Take care." He never sent anything else. Months later, long after the news cycle moved on, Malcolm stood on a stage in Toronto, accepting an award for innovation he barely remembered applying for. Applause washed over him like distant rain. In the crowd, he spotted June, smiling. A doctor from one of the reopened clinics. A nurse who'd written him a thank you note in blue ink that still lived folded in his wallet. Malcolm adjusted the microphone. "Thank you," he said, meaning it. As he stepped back from the podium, a young man approached him, nervous. "I saw what happened on that flight," the man said. "I thought, if you could keep your dignity through that, maybe I could too." Malcolm met his eyes. They shook hands. Nothing flashy. Nothing dramatic. Just two people standing upright in a world that had tried, unsuccessfully, to push one of them down.